12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM WEJF. It's Wednesday. That means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And here's the host of the program for today, none other than Joe Steckler. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, John. You notice it's a very somber good morning.
I noticed.
Yes. Folks, I'm going to tell you, any of you that are listening to this show that have a bundle of nerves that go through one of your spine openings and the darn thing gets pinched, you got an idea of what I'm sitting here on my hip going through with. But I wanted to do the show today because I've never done a show with a doctor of holistic medicine. I've wondered about it. I've often wondered about it. I don't know what it is. I don't think the average person knows what it is. I think we need to know more about it. And I assure you, if he can tell me anything during the course of the show is going to help me, I'm going to sure go to the store and buy whatever he tells me to buy, because nothing, not a darn thing that I have tried over the last 6 months, a year, has really, truly helped. And all this stuff about CDB this and CDB that and everything else, it hadn't touched it. So I just want you to know that. But the purpose of our show is to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with resources to help them. And that's why we do the show. And that's why we have Dr. Kilday on this morning. And we also have Dr. Kerry Fink, who is our media guy. And Kerry set to show up today. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to get here or not. And Kerry would have done it, but he's going to do a major part of it because I'm going to do a lot of listening today. And I know you won't believe that, but I think you'll see it through the show that I won't talk as much as I normally do. But it hurts like thunder. But welcome, Dr. Kilday.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm also glad Kerry's here, because if I faint, Kerry can carry on the show.
Well, I was just going to add one thing, Joe, is that, John Harper and I, we were talking just before the show, and I said, of all the programs that we've ever done on helping seniors, and I'm talking about radio and television and articles and things like that, we get the most questions or the most reaction if you go back and check the audience for the shows on pain. More people that I have read about on the Helping Seniors Network are responding to articles about pain. So while everybody has to kind of work through it themselves, there's no question this is a common topic among seniors.
Well, people are afraid. And I think, Dr. Kilday, I hope you'll talk about this a little bit. People have a fear. When you hurt and you see your doctors getting older and you see doctors retiring, you see replacements coming in that don't seem to do things the same way that you're accustomed to, you're afraid, because I don't care who says what about anything. Pain hurts.
That's right. I mean, and there are alternative ways to help with pain and inflammation. There are plenty of supplements out there, primarily herbs. I like herbs because they've been around for over 5,000 years with the Chinese medicine and with the Ayurvedic Indian medicine. So there are a lot of clinical studies also backing them up, and they have been well studied and to help with inflammation and nerve pain and just pain in general.
What would have happened, Dr. Kilday, if one of these Chinese mandarins that control thousands and thousands of people had a pain, and he calls Chief Mandarin in and said, "Fix me," and he couldn't fix him? What would he have done to him?
Well, Chinese herbs are they're very complicated. I use more of the Ayurvedic type herbs, the Indian herbs. But the Chinese herbs, they usually have Chinese names to them and things like that. So I would go with an Ayurvedic type herb, which would be such as curcumin or boswellia, which is a compound in frankincense. And I just recently wrote an article. Actually, it's coming out this month in Spotlight magazine, and I do reference about 4 herbs and a couple of essential oils that are very good for pain. So it's in the July issue of Spotlight magazine, and I do mention curcumin and boswellia, as well as a couple of essential oils.
Now, we're way ahead of ourselves here. First of all, what is holistic medicine? What do we mean by that, Doctor?
Well, holistic medicine is really taken from the word whole, like whole person, and many alternative practitioners, well, just the industry believes holistic is the healing of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Is that any single one of them is out of balance, then it affects the other. So if your mind has a problem, it could be affecting you physically. If you're spiritually not well, that can also affect your mind, and it can also affect you physically.
I have been, and Kerry, don't you just sit there like a bunk on the log. You can chime in anytime you want to here, because you know what I do. But Kerry and I both are very strong Christians, and I don't mind saying that, because I have always believed in the power of prayer. And I remember years ago when I had a Jewish rabbi and an undertaker on the show with me, and we talked about prayer. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that the Jewish rabbi had as much. Well, he did believe in it, but he didn't think the same way that I did. And I do know that I have a very, very regimented set of prayers that I say every day. And for those of you that are listening that are Catholic, know that when I talk about a series of prayers called to the divine mysteries, and this is something that I say at least twice a day. I generally, when I really hurt like I do, I say the prayer every day of my life. But when I really hurt, I might say it an extra time. And I know that if I wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and really in agony, and I get up and go out to my chair, and I sit down under this recliner chair, and I say those prayers, I can honestly say, to reinforce what you said about different parts of your mind and body responding to other parts, is that the prayer does help.
That's right. Because I'm also a pastor, and I also incorporate, spiritual, Christian counseling in my practice. A couple of my specialties are alternative cancer solutions, and as well as my brand new program called Holistic Addictions Therapy. I just felt called to do something about this addictions epidemic going on in this country, so I just have a protocol that I wrote, and we set up a new office in Palm Bay. But to get back on the spirituality of it, like even in the addictions field, which is a major problem, a lot of people use the services of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous, which are very, very good. However, you must have a spiritual side of recovery also, which is very important. I mean, the mind and the body and the spirit. A lot of times in the addictions field, as far as the mind goes, they find that as much as 50% of people in recovery are clinically depressed. So therefore, the mind is out of balance. Therefore they have cravings for drugs, and then it starts affecting them physically, and but also the spirituality part of really any program, it is very, very important for full recovery from anything.
Dr. Kilday, I was going to ask you about that because I know that in your background, you've had a lot of experience in addiction recovery. And is it not possible that people turn to what I call self-medication as a way to deal with some of the pain that they're suffering? So that could be the reason maybe somebody is drinking or taking too many pills or something like that.
Yes, that is true. I mean, a lot of the when they become addicts, or as they say, cross that line, like I said before, even with the depression and that reaping its ugly head when you're in recovery, it's probably because they've been clinically depressed for many, many, many years, and they've been using alcohol and drugs to self-medicate for that depression, and or anxiety or some trauma in their life or whatever. Yes, self-medication is a big part of it.
So if you go back to the question that Joe was asking or wanting us to understand for our listeners also, is when we talk about holistic health, so if somebody came into you and says, look, I'm experiencing just ridiculous amounts of pain. They always draw the little circle where you put the smiley face and you tell if it's a frown or, what your scale is. And if somebody says, like Joe is suffering with today, where it's like off the scale, I'm sure if 10 was the high number, I would expect he's at a 20 right now.
Right.
How do you begin that conversation? What are the things you do with somebody as you walk through what their options might be?
Well, like I said, before I would first recommend some highly studied, herbs that have been shown to reduce pain and inflammation. First I would ask the client if they have tried any of them, and what their if they had any success with it. If not, I would suggest some supplements. We're also, I personally don't do it, but I have another party that does it. I highly recommend, acupuncture. I find it, a lot of people have had great success with the science of acupuncture and relieving pain. There's also other units out there too. Like we use a product called Pmf Therapy, and Beamer is just a brand name, but it's actually a PEMF, which is a pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy, and what it is just it has certain you lie on this mat, and there's certain frequencies that that would enter your body, and it has been shown to increase circulation, to reduce inflammation, to reduce pain, and even the unit that we use is FDA approved, and it also has been approved for use by NASA, because NASA is looking into it as increasing circulation among astronauts when they come back from space.
Dr. Kilday, John Harper here. It seems like circulation has a lot to do with pain management. How does acupuncture affect that circulation? How does it control that, or what does it create?
Well, I'm not an acupuncturist myself, but I believe with them using the very tiny needles, in various parts of the body, it stimulates circulation. So therefore, and also if there's a like nerve pain that Mr. Joe has, it's possible that the acupuncturist can use his needles to go right at those nerves and deaden the pain.
But is the pain actually created in any person? Is it actually come from those nerve endings being blocked, and you're trying through your holistic approach to unblock those nerve endings to get more circulation?
Yes, I believe that's the theory behind acupuncture. Like I said, I'm not an acupuncturist. I never practiced it before. I actually use a third party that that I send people to.
Right, but I mean, even in the approach that you take.
Well, yeah, with the PEMF therapy, the pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy, yes, it puts out certain frequencies that stimulates the nerves and muscles and therefore release blockages and helps with circulation.
That was tried on me. I think this is like a radio control thing, right? Or a frequency control.
Yeah, you lie on a mat, and it only takes like a 10-minute session initially, but I do recommend it for any health issues to do it a few times a week to start getting some results.
Okay, this what they did to me was a little bit different. They used the excuse me, used a radio controlled frequency to excuse me, I have a coughing fit here, to sort of block the nerve endings, and I'm not sure what that ever did, but that was 10, 12 years ago. And but part of the problem, doctor, that I see, excuse me, Kerry, you go ahead and talk.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking online to get a little bit of a background about acupuncture and what it does, but basically you're right. It's supposed to help. It's the same idea as when people talk about pressure points and things like that, where theoretically what you're doing is you're trying to open up a blockage that is causing the pain, and can you continue that? But so it is, as I would understand, it is circulation based. But it's also, I was going to ask you about the Beamer technology because of two things. Number one, most people agree that the cause of inflammation it can be rectified by getting proper circulation into that area. And what I understand, my limited understanding of the Beamer technology is what it's doing is it's creating a energy system that is opening it up. And I've certainly heard testimonials to the effectiveness of that. And it seems like it's fairly recently technology, although there was some light wave technology and things in the past that was sort of like that. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it?
Well, yes, the PEMF therapy or Beamer therapy, it does increase circulation and gets nutrients to the cells. So by getting the right nutrients to the cells and by increasing circulation, it can get to the inflammatory part of the body and start. The nutrients may start reducing the inflammation. The frequency has something to do with lowering the inflammation also. So and it's just it increases oxygen also in your body. The PEMF therapy, which is very good. It helps with the immune system, and help ward off any other diseases that could be accumulating in your body, or just prevention.
Right. Now I was going to ask, how related to this is the concept of nutrition? Do you talk to people about what we eat and how that impacts our levels of inflammation and pain and things like that?
Well, yes. Both of my programs, the Winning Against Cancer and the Holistic Addictions Therapy, have a specific diet attached to it. I firmly believe in pH balancing. Okay, and everybody should be have a pH balance of 7 to 7.5. And also it's also
pH balance.
I'm just trying to think what
alkaline acid.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The acid alkaline balance is what it is. The body needs to be more alkaline than acidic. If your body is acidic, for instance, cancer thrives in an acidic environment.
Okay.
All right. Also, the use of sugar in today's diet. I mean, it's very much out of control. I just watched a news segment last night, and with so many hidden sugars in all the products that we eat, the host actually said that 75% of the U.S. population intake an excess amount of sugar daily and may not even know it. Because there's so many different names for sugar, and there's so much sugar in processed foods, and the sugar is just really everywhere. You really got to be very conscious about reading labels and eliminating white sugar. And then she also said that the sugar substitutes are not good either. They're as bad as the sugar, because it actually stimulates, like aspartame, for instance. It stimulates the body and to actually make you more hungry.
Well, it's an interesting point, because Dr. Lee Sheldon, who is one of our area's top periodontists, and I have heard Dr. Sheldon and Joe have long discussions because just about the fact that even though he works on people's mouths, he's concerned that the health doesn't just begin with the mouth. It's actually what's going on in your body both ways. You can have problems in your teeth that are causing problems in your body, and vice versa. And so I've heard him talk about this pH balance, and he said just go get the little test strip and you can check your own pH, but you don't want to be acidic. So I've heard him talk about it.
I highly recommend. I even sell the little test strips when I'm consulting with somebody, and I just tell them it's very important to do this daily, and I also have a little booster drops also. So if, let's say, someone who's very busy and may get up in the morning and find that their body is a bit acidic, and they don't have time to address it, they can actually get this little alkaline booster drops I have, and just get a bottle of water and just put it in there and raise your alkaline.
I would imagine that a lot of people don't even realize the excess amount of sugars and anything that goes to increase your acidic level has another fault that most people don't realize they probably are affected by, is a little thing called the gout. A lot of people probably have gout and don't even realize it.
Right.
They think the pain is arthritic, or think it's something needs. It's actually an excess of acid in your bloodstream.
Wow. And I've heard you talk about how painful that is, because you've had to live through that.
It hurts like blazes. Yes.
There's also a supplement that has been very, very effective to reduce the pain of gout. It's called Tart Cherry. That's what it's called.
I know. My wife buys that stuff for me at the health food store.
Good.
I think probably a lot of us do a lot on the holistic approach to medicine and living. We do it a lot more than we realize. Mm-hmm. We just don't think about it.
But to pick up where you left off before about sugar, sugar is.
This time we're going to you hold your thought on sugar,
okay.
And we're going to take a mid-show break, because I don't want you to get started on it and cut you off. So you remember that. Remember now. Okay. All right. Take it away, John.
It's 12:34 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday. That means it's Joe Steckler and Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get back to the show, and here's your host, Joe Steckler.
Thank you, John, and welcome back, listeners. The show today is really composed of Dr. Kerry Fink, who is our media director over at Helping Seniors, and Dr. Kilday. And Dr. Kilday is a doctor of holistic medicine, and I'm just me. And I joke sometimes and tell people I was a trained killer, because I was a commander of a submarine and did a lot of things. But, we live life. And through the process of living life, we learn a lot. I've learned a lot since I've been associated with Kerry Fink. I've learned a lot about media. I've learned about No, more than anything, I've learned about what it means, what Christianity means, what Christian belief means, what it means to have the Lord as a presence in our life. And I'm not afraid to talk about it. Too many people are afraid to talk about it. And this is a Christian radio network, so those of you that are listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because if we try to live our lives without God being in our lives, we have a very, very difficult time. And if I'm saying something wrong, then call me and tell me. And the number here to do that is 722-9998. But I think that
you're saying it right, Joe, and I'll back you up.
Okay, all right. But I think that let's go back to this holistic medicine. Holistic medicine. Why don't you give us an idea, Dr. Kilday, of the parameters of it? I take it means that you're having the Lord in your life, you're having the presence of the people around you in your life, you're having your family in your life, you're having you actually have medicines that would help that holistic doctors don't normally use, and that's why we have other doctors, and you have the use of herbal medicines and other techniques, and you mentioned acupuncture. What have I left out?
Excuse me, what about what?
What?
What about acupuncture?
Oh, he just mentioned as one of the treatments.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the treatments,
but
right.
What have I left out as being whole, when we talk about holistic medicine? It's more than just a pill. It's more than just an herb. It's a way of life, isn't it?
Yes, and I also try to stay away from the word medicine. I just call myself a holistic doctor or holistic health. Because I leave the word medicine to medical doctors, okay? Because I don't want people to get confused that I may be a medical doctor and which I'm not. But but there's a lot of practitioners out there that use that, but I just chose not to use the word medicine. But as far as holistic type treatment, there are more and more traditional doctors out there today. That are embracing alternative medicine. They call that integrative medicine, or they call that functional medicine. But the problem that these traditional doctors are having is their local American Medical Association board frowns upon that. It frowns upon medical doctors using alternative medicine, and sometimes they get reprimanded for it.
Let me just interject. I want to tell a personal life story about that. My wife had a doctor in New York City who was a medical doctor, and so we were going to her for some challenges that Tammy was having at the time. And as a medical doctor, within the bounds of the prescriptions and the different things that she had the authority to do, and also, to be honest, within the authority of the insurance company and all of that, there were certain limitations. And after going through MRIs and CAT scans and all kinds of things trying to help her understand where pain was coming from and couldn't get there, the doctor, she's telling Tammy, said, I really can't think of anything that we can do that we haven't already tried to help you get out of pain. She said, this is a long shot, but she said, I do holistic medicine. I can't do it here in this particular office because this is what this office is. But 2 days a week, I'm at this practice down the street in New York City. Your insurance is not going to cover it. If you want to try it, that's just a thought. So Tammy was like, I'll do anything to get out of this pain. So sure enough, we marched down the street and they ran a heavy metals test on her and discovered that what was causing her to have shakes and jitters and some of the pain was mercury poisoning. And I just want to say it was interesting because we ran from hospital to hospital, all these different tests, and nope, MRI's coming up clean, your CAT scans coming, all these things, couldn't find it. But that was it. And she went on a heavy metal detox program, And that really solved that problem. I mean, they were trying to figure out if she was having MS or some other degenerative disease, and it turned out it was heavy metal poisoning, which the insurance company, and the traditional side of it couldn't figure out.
Well, I'm very familiar with, heavy metal toxicity because one of the things I do in my practice is hair mineral analysis testing. And what that does, we get a sample of hair and we send it out to a federally certified laboratory out in Arizona, and as a result of the test, they give you your balance of your minerals, like your calcium and magnesium, copper and zinc and phosphorus and iron. There's about a dozen of them. And these minerals all work together, like calcium and magnesium work together. If they're out of balance, they could be causing some discomfort and some health issues. The same thing with zinc and copper. They work together. And if they're out of balance, again, it could be causing some health issues. So they test for the balance of minerals. Plus, they also check for heavy metals. They test for mercury, for aluminum, lead, cadmium, and arsenic. All 5 of them are carcinogenic, and they have attached to them major health problems in addition to cancer. And mercury is a very common one in a lot of testing I've done. Sometimes low levels, sometimes medium levels. But mercury that doesn't just come from the dental silver fillings. They also come from from eating fish, depending on what part of the world that you get your fish from. It's also it's in a number of sources, and also aluminum is another one. Many people have elevations of aluminum. And that's comes from aluminum cans. Drinking from aluminum cans. I guess maybe when you were younger for many years. It can come from storing food in a aluminum foil. There's also aluminum in some bleached flour for some reason, and some table salt. But like for instance, mercury. Is very bad because they have linked mercury toxicity to some major diseases such as Parkinson's and such as Alzheimer's disease.
I was just going to say that because I know that one of the first things that came out when the battle against Alzheimer's disease was the nun study they did, where they tested a certain number of nuns that cook from aluminum pots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's another source also.
About that.
Right.
But it's interesting, Dr. Kilday, that all these things that have come out, they sort of seem to get dropped, and something new pops up. But one of the things I noticed on one of the things that you had wanted to talk about today, and I'm just going to read the name of the program because this really caught my eye, and I think it's something I think you really want to talk about it, and I think our listeners really need to hear what you have to say. Let's talk about your Winning Against Cancer program, and what inspired you to write that?
Well, again, it was up front and close. I had a couple of members of my family that had passed from cancer, and both of them passed from cancer. Because it came back to them a second time. My father-in-law, he started out with stomach cancer, and that was in remission for many, many, many years. I think 10 or 15 years, and then it came back with a vengeance, in his lungs, and then ultimately killed them in a short amount of time. And then it was my brother-in-law who was it was a young man. It was first diagnosis when he was about in his early 30s. He ended up there was some cancer in his back. They caught it in time. He did the standard traditional treatment, Unfortunately, another 10, 15 years later, it came back with a vengeance in his lungs and in his brain. My theory on that is yes, a lot of people do recover from traditional treatment of cancer. It goes into remission, as the doctors say, However, most people feel, most cancer survivors, I can't say most, but cancer survivors feel that if it's in remission, then I can go back to my regular way of living. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. If you had cancer in your body and it was out of control and it was treated and in remission, you need to start living a healthy lifestyle to prevent it from coming back again. In most cases, it will come back if you don't take some preparation and prevention to stop it from returning.
Is that what your book is about?
Well, it's not just for people who survived it. I mean, I try to get people who have been recently diagnosed and they're up in the air of wanting to do chemo and radiation, or they're up in the air of doing strictly a holistic approach. My program is all natural. I'll tell you this. Statistics show that if a cancer client, regardless of what stage, if they decide to do just holistic treatment and have not started any other treatment, the recovery rate could be as high as 80%. All right. However, if they started chemotherapy and radiation, stopped it for whatever reason, said I had enough, and then they come to a holistic doctor like me, that statistic drops down now to 50% because of the chemotherapy and the radiation has damaged their immune system so much.
Well, I think one of the reasons the immune system gets damaged is because this is a known fact. For a woman that has breast cancer, they have to remove so many lymph nodes from the side of the chest and under the arm that they have no way to move the fluids through the lymphatic system, and that causes a problem throughout the whole body.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to holistic help, I stay away from the word treatment because that's a doctor's word, an MD word. A lot of times I get clients in front of me who have already started, like I said, chemo, or they're just getting ready to start chemo, and they just want to maybe do something, the adjunct to it, which is good, which is very good. I mean, keep your build up your immune system prior to going into chemotherapy or going into radiation. All right. However, a lot of times I have clients come back to me and they said, "Doctor, I mentioned that to my oncologist, and my oncologist says, absolutely not. You cannot take any supplements while you're taking chemotherapy." That is a shame. I only recommend things that are clinically studied, and clinically studies do show that there are a lot of supplements, depending what they are, do not affect the outcome of chemotherapy, or does not affect the what the chemotherapy is supposed to do. So I think they're wrong. I mean, they just do it because they were trained that way. They just trained in medicine. Out of 14 years it takes to become a medical doctor, and don't get me wrong, everyone, I'm not bad-mouthing medical doctors. I'm just bad-mouthing the part of the education they get. All right, because out of the 14 years it takes them to become a doctor, 8, 10 years of school, and then 6 years of residency and stuff. And the American Medical Association has even admitted this in their journal, that doctors have less than 20 hours of nutrition training after all those years of becoming a medical doctor.
We have a daughter that's a nurse, and she's very much into nutrition, and I've heard her say the same thing. And I've done shows over the years for the last 20 years where we've talked about what it takes to be a doctor of this or a doctor of that, and the amount of training that goes into it. And Dr. Sheldon has made a great point of it, that our doctors sadly do not get that much on the effect of nutritional training. And put it more, and Kerry, you can comment on this too. Don't you forget, I want you to talk some more during the show because I got to lose my voice.
No worries.
I go my doctor. I've had my primary care doctor for 30 years, and the guy was a flight surgeon in the Air Force.
Wow.
I trust him implicitly. He has watched me through a dissecting aorta, through a stroke, through all the problems I've had. He doesn't spend just 5 minutes with me. He takes the time necessary to check me out and try, and he's very concerned. And I've watched him get that little computer in his hand, and I've watched him scroll through that thing, checking medicines, checking this, checking that, to see what he should do, what he shouldn't do. And I know there are very, very caring doctors in all aspects of medicine, whether it be a medical doctor or a holistic doctor. And they're in those fields because they strongly believe that there is more to be learned from the practice of, I'll just call it general medicine in that field, whether it's holistic or medical medicine. Mm-hmm. I admire people that are willing to go out and go against the odds, and I think that's what holistic doctors do.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you asked about my Winning Against Cancer program. Just some of the specifics real quickly. We start out with a detox regimen. We detox the stomach and the colon and the blood. I also recommend that the pH balancing diet. I recommend a book that goes along with. Actually, I sell the book now to go along with that. And then getting that, back to supplements. I only recommend supplements, primarily herbs, that have been clinically studied to show positive results in reversing cancer. Regardless of what kind of cancer it is. Actually on my website, I actually have a what they call a cancer supplement chart, and it covers the 15 most common cancers in the United States, and it's a chart that I show. For instance, I would show bladder cancer, and then next to it, it would be a box there, and it will show 6, 8, or 10 supplements that have been clinically studied, to help reverse bladder cancer. And the list just goes on and on. I mean, it has, we have breast and kidney and renal cancer, liver cancer, leukemia. So, it's a great, reference chart if you want to go to my website.
What is the website?
Yeah, holistichealthcenter.us.
And Dr. Kilday, I've pulled this up here. Again, if you want to grab a pencil, I'm going to say the name of that website again. It's holistichealthcenter.us. And if you're like me and maybe you're not sure how you spell holistic,
I was just going to ask you to spell it.
HOLISTIC. So the word holistic begins with an H. And again, that website, holistichealthcenter.us. And I actually pulled up this thing. It says the Magnificent Seven. This is under your menu tab that talks about the cancer program.
Right.
And so you talk about testing, detoxification. You talk about nutrition. You talk about exercise. You talk about oxygenation. You talk about mental state and depression. And you talk about spiritual connection. This site looks like it has a lot of information that I think a listener would enjoy just educating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say one thing real quick. On 30 June, a program called Project Elmore that had to do with helping people with reverse mortgages that got themselves in trouble with taxes or payment of insurance, it went away. Since that program went away, I have had 3 calls for help.
Wow.
That these people could have been saved had Project Elmore stayed in place. the problem with it was that more people didn't avail themselves of what they can learn by just reading on the internet. Nothing in Dr. Kilday's site says you got to do this, but being better informed helps you make better decisions.
That's right. Amen.
And there is a lot of material here. You've got a very complete website, holistichealthcenter.us. And tell us a little bit, I know we're getting close to the end of the show, but tell us a little bit about this clinic that you've got in Palm Bay.
Yes, on July 15th, next Monday, is actually our official grand opening of a center that we're making our headquarters. And I have a business partner that's also a registered nurse. She's also a pastor. She's also a doctor in pastoral counseling. And we are going to be officially opening that. It's part of, I'm not associated with Peace Lutheran Church, but we have that space on the Peace Lutheran Church property. It's in the back of the, if you're facing the church from Port Malabar Boulevard, it's in the building behind the sanctuary. And, but there's going to be signs there, directing you to Holistic Health Center. But one of my primary objectives, at this center is to help people with addictions. I have a brand new program called Holistic Addictions Therapy that is not on my website yet. It should be up, within a few days. I am feverishly working on it, and it is a program that consists of detoxing from these drugs. It also addresses the diet. It's very similar to the layout of my Winning Against Cancer. It's the holistic approach. And again, just to give you some statistics, traditional rehab and traditional outpatient recovery programs are averaging a 20% recovery rate. A faith-based holistic approach is as high as 80%.
Those are statistics, folks. They're hard to deny. And by the way, that the person you're talking about isn't a person by the name of Kuhn, is it? It's not the doctor, the pastor?
Oh, no. Her name is Pastor Devin Mayer.
Okay, because the same church has a good friend, has somebody that I'm associated with that's also a doctor down there.
Oh, okay.
That's why I thought
yeah.
it was just too much to be a coincidence. Folks, we're just about out of time. About a minute? Okay. I just want to thank Dr. Kilday for coming on and being willing to talk about something that many people find hard to talk about, hard to listen about, or listen to, or even talk to the subject. And this is something that, a smart, wise, well-informed person is got to be somebody that's willing to accept change. If we wouldn't have accepted change, the United States of America wouldn't be capable of doing all the things we do. And so I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll say thank you, Dr. Kilday. Thank you, Dr. Fink, for being on the show today. Thank you, John and Jim, for manning the boards. We'll see you next week with Barbara McIntyre. Okay, I got it right. See you next week. Bye-bye.